please welcome one of those 5 million callers to tell you his story. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kevin Shepherd.
Hello, Intrinsic. I was half tempted to start. I love that track, by the way. One Fine Day by Elbow. You should play it every day. It's a great track. Quick confession from me. When I got the invitation to come and speak to you guys, I speed read it and double fist pump. I thought, yes, Investec, they're the team, they're the lot that sponsor Spurs. I might be able to blag a couple of free tickets. Then I read it again and it said Intrinsic. But having said that, I'm really, really glad to be here. And hopefully when you sort of hear what I've got to say, you'll realise just why I'm so glad to be here. April the 13th, 12 days ago. Quick show of hands in the room. Who remembers what they were doing on April the 13th? 12 days ago. It was a Saturday, if that helps. So you were probably playing golf, taking the kids out, counting all your money. Any hands? Can you remember what they were doing 12 days ago? Okay, keep your hands up if you can remember what you were doing on April the 12th, 3 years ago. 2010, no hands. I know what I was doing. It's a day I'll probably never forget. In fact, it was about this time of the day, 3 years ago on April the 12th. I was stood on top of a car park, multi-storey car park in Colchester, looking over the edge. On the floor beside me there was a bag. It had letters in that I'd written to my children, to my father, just to say, that was it. I wasn't going to be here. You're probably wondering, how does somebody get to that point where they're stood hundreds of feet up, stood there looking over, ready to go? And I'll tell you how I got there. From a good job, earning good money, company car, private healthcare, all that sort of thing, all the things that you look for, relationship, children, house, everything. Redundancy came. Redundancy hit me. Not a problem. I got a few quid payoff. I'll find something else. But there's something else that I wanted to get into didn't materialise, and it became tough. The relationship broke down. No job. I was feeling sort of, quite low, applying for jobs, and nothing was coming back. And you find yourself sort of slipping. The relationship breaks down, starts getting a bit difficult. Before long, it's gone. It's irretrievable. Left the marital home, as I do, with absolutely nothing. And I've always said since that day, next time I'm just going to meet someone I don't like and buy them a house and cut out the middleman. So that was it. I was sort of homeless. I moved back to Colchester, where my son was living in a studio flat, doing really well for himself. He's got his own place. He's working hard. And I was 45 years old and sleeping on my son's sofa with a red suitcase, a few quid in the bank, not enough to get started again, not enough to rent a place because, all my money was tied up in the other relationship. So, that was it. I've gone from having it all, when you're young, you set out in life to have a family, you set out in life to have a house, a career. And then all of a sudden, that's all gone from me, and I'm 45 years old, and I'm stood there and I'm thinking, what do I do now? It's gone, it's all gone, and it's that overwhelming feeling of loss and uselessness and despair that how do you start again at 45 years old? So I found myself slipping into depression, and things were really tough, and I can remember April the 12th, the night before the actual event. I can remember sitting at home and, at my son's place. He'd gone out somewhere. and I was on the internet, and the internet's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I Googled suicide. Google suicide, and a Wikipedia page comes up with all these different methods of how you can end your life. It's incredible. And so I'm on there, and I'm looking, and that's a bit painful. I'm not doing that. You know, oh, I know I don't fancy that one. That one won't work. And, you know, I was on the internet, and I was looking at that, and I thought, I need help. I really, really need help. And I Googled the Samaritans. Got my mobile out. I punched the number in on my phone. One ring, someone answered. I couldn't speak. I just couldn't. I didn't know what to say, so I hung up. And that was it. You know, that night I was writing my letters, putting them all in my bag. The next morning comes, and my son, because I was sleeping on the settee, my son's flat was a studio flat. He was getting up for work, and it was so surreal. I cannot imagine that anybody in this room can imagine seeing your son get out of bed and get ready for work, knowing that's the last time you're ever going to see him. Okay? Mental health illnesses rob you of the ability to rationalise. You cannot think logically and think, what am I doing? I'm going to leave my kids without a father. And you can't have that ability to rationalise. So my son's getting ready for work, and he's sort of, what are you doing today, Dad? Oh, I'm carrying on looking for a job, mate. I'll be all right, I'll see you when you get home, knowing that I wouldn't. So as my son's gone out of the flat, he's gone down the stairs, closed the front door behind him, and I've stood watching him walk down the road and sort of looked down, and there's a puddle on the windowsill. It was my tears. I was just crying as I saw him sort of walk away. So that was really, really tough. But yeah, I felt quite calm, you know, and I was walked off, got dressed, walked off, and I knew what I was going to do. The plan was there. Got to the top of the car park, put my bag down beside me, stood there. Here we go. And for some reason, I sort of like that. My phone. I don't want to damage my phone. You know, don't care about myself and my bloody phone. So as I've got my phone out, I've opened my phone like that, and I've gone like that, and I've gone to my list of last dialed numbers. They'd miss me. She wouldn't care. He'd get pissed at my funeral. Oh, Samaritan's number. And to this day, as I stand in front of you now, I cannot tell you what made me do that, but I did. The phone was answered like that. And there was a lady on the other end of the phone, and she's Samaritans. I couldn't speak. I was just stood there with the phone in my hand. Hello, Samaritans. She knew obviously someone was there because the call had connected, but you know, it was so tough for me to actually start speaking that eventually, hello? You know, the lady was saying, you know, how can I help you? You know, I said, I'm stood on top of a car park. I'm about to go. She said, just have a chat with me first. She said, just have a quick chat. She said, I'm not going to make any judgments. I'm not going to tell you what to do. She said, just have a chat with me, as long as you want. So I started chatting to the lady through floods of tears. I was, you know, pretty incoherent, but the lady understood me, and she was absolutely superb, you know. She was, I mean, I don't know, it must be the training that these guys have, but she managed to sort of keep me talking. She managed to get the conversation going. She didn't ask me any questions about why I was doing what I was doing. In fact, she didn't talk about that at all. It was all sort of just questions basically to get me to carry on talking to her. The number that I phoned was the local Colchester branch of Samaritans, and this lady said, do you know our office is about 500 yards from where you are? She said, why don't you come and walk down to the office, come into our office, have a cup of tea. She said, we've got tissues as well. She said, we could give you tea and tissues. You come and sit down and have a chat with us. I did. I got off the top of the car park, I walked down the stairs, and I walked to the Samaritan's office, pressed the buzzer, someone was there waiting for me. Straight up into a room, cup of tea, box of tissues, and just chat. And the floodgates opened. I was in a terrible, terrible state. I mean, you know, I was that close to sort of, you know, not being here anymore. But it's amazing how much just having somebody to listen to you makes a difference. Because you can't, I didn't want to talk to my children. You have this thing, when you're suffering from a mental health breakdown, you're very, very conscious of that you don't want to inflict your misery onto other people, especially the people that you love. And so you hide it, you wear this mask. You know, I was the first one that used to get the phone calls from the lads saying, right, we're off out tonight, you know, you come in, Kev, because, you know, they always know there's going to be plenty of banter and a bit of a laugh when I'm out, but I would do that and I would go out and I would act the way everybody expected me to act. And then when I get home, you take the mask off. And that's when you're at your most vulnerable, because you're on your own and you start thinking and you start destroying yourself and your self-hatred and your self-loathing and everything like that. Your self-esteem's on the floor, and it's an impossible illness. And somebody told me outside while I was waiting to come in that you guys are quite good with figures. I don't know, it might be a rumour. 1 in 5 people in this country will at some time suffer from dandruff. 1 in 4 will experience a mental health issue. I must be really unlucky because in my time I've had both. The thing is, guys, you will be bombarded every day. You turn the television on, you listen to the radio, you're walking through town, and you'll get bombarded with people asking you to support their charity. The difference with the Samaritans is the actual difference you as an individual can make. Somebody somewhere in this country donated a tenner to Samaritans. That tenner saved my life. Because if they hadn't have given that tenner, that woman wouldn't be there to answer that phone. If she hadn't have answered that phone, I wouldn't be here. My kids would be without a dad. You know, I wouldn't have been able to wear the £30 Tesco suit out anymore to events like this. I had a few nervous laughs there. I see a few of you have got the old £30 Tesco suits on as well. So you can make a difference. You can get involved. You can donate a tenner. You can donate 20 quid. You can do an event. You can bake cakes, make tea, do whatever you want and raise money for Samaritans, and know that that money has an impact on somebody's life. Okay? Think of it as you doing something like putting your hands on my shoulders and pulling me away from the edge. Because that's what you're doing. You're saving somebody from doing something that is going to destroy other people's lives, not just their own. It's been an absolute honour and a privilege to share my story with you guys. And if you take one thing away from what I've said, is if you do know anybody that is at that stage of their life, or open up to them, speak to them, get them to talk to you, help them. And if anybody has got any tickets for a Spurs game, I'll be outside after the thing. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well done. Well done.